Geologic, and today I'm going to
Welcome back to the afternoon portion of our day 2 of TEQ 2022. This afternoon we're going to get to hear from Jerry first to kick us off for the afternoon. Just a reminder, as we get into the talk, when the talk is finished, as you're exiting, we do ask please give feedback to our presenters. It is, invaluable for not only them but also as a conference to make sure that we get the right programming for our, future audiences and things like that. So, without any more, I will turn it over.
Thank you. Hi folks, how are you today?
Good.
Great.
I'll see if I can keep you awake after a great meal. Thanks for coming. We're going a cappella today. My 10-year-old computer does not want to talk to the brand new projector. Don't worry, I can do this. My name is Jerry Penner. I am the Senior Test Specialist at Waterloo Hydrogeologic, and today I'm going to give you a case study on how I slashed the final acceptance testing time for Waterloo Hydrogeologic's flagship product, Visual ModFlow Flex. Normally in the past when I was asked how I can test any faster, I tell them, bring me a second computer. I'll test twice as fast. Sometimes I respond with, sure, I can do it in half the time. We'll cut out half of the test cases. You have no idea how close to the truth that actually is. So, who am I? I started testing software in 2008, created 2 test teams from the ground up. I've got experience in a number of different industries, everything from medical records, internet advertising, scientific software, and a media startup, development methodologies, everything from waterfall to agile to cowboy, everything in between. And today we'll talk about Waterloo Hydrogeologic and its flagship product, the legacy test philosophy, ask, the fundamental shift in my tester thinking, the new testing philosophy, and the customer response. So, Waterloo Hydrogeologic. Been in business since 1989. The flagship product was first built when Windows 2.1 was cool. The 386 was king! Like a Prayer by Madonna and Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics played in the background while we worked. Cell phones looked like bricks and were just as heavy. Surfing on the web with one, nobody'd even invented that yet. The VModFlex is a 3-dimensional groundwater modeling tool, and I'm sure that you've all heard about how Nestle is draining Guelph dry. We make the software that allows the scientists to tell the rest of us just how bad the problem is going to be in 20 years. It takes that in the form of CSV files and spreadsheets, performs some magic, and spits out 3-dimensional time models that extend what-if scenarios into the past or the future. It's expensive, it has a small, specialized user base, few competitors, and has a high barrier to exit. It's easy to get the data in, goes into a proprietary data format. Often the purchaser and the user are 2 different people. Think AutoCAD, not Candy Crush. Over the years, Flex has been built and rebuilt using newer technologies, currently using the latest .NET framework and C#, and it's still running as standalone desktop software. Still not built for testability. Over each iteration, testability was the last thing on anybody's mind. There's still no way to pry off the UI layer and get at the business layer underneath. I'd really like it if the company could use a web testing approach, client server, such that we can host the server backend, do the heavy lifting in the back end, show the customer the pretty pictures and the time models in the front end, or if the customer is worried about security, their IT department can host their own back end and split it out that way. That would make it way easier for me as a tester to do what I need to do to automate the testing. But in order to do that, we've got to spend a year and $800,000 to build a product that looks, smells, and works exactly like it does now. That's a really tough sell to upper management. So, I arrived 9 years ago, and my mandate was to bring some experience to the testing team. The testing system had become bloated and inconsistent. The testers prior were either interns or junior testers. The PM was writing the test cases. He was writing them in a shorthand that made sense to him, anybody else, and these inexperienced testers with a high turnover rate meant that we had a test case style and coverage that was anywhere from mediocre to truly awful. So, the legacy testing philosophy. We had a test case for every backlog item. We had a test case for every bug that was not already covered by a backlog item. We had TIOP, tested all Tuesdays, for every 2-week sprint. Execute all the test cases for the most touched areas to make sure we didn't break anything else. When we started doing this, it took a day, one person. In the end, it took 5 days, 2 people. This is not sustainable. Particularly when the test team is 2 people.
How big's the dev team?
We had 6, 8 at the time. So the developer tester ratio was about right for what we were doing. But taking care of the regression testing, no. The automation suite was a GUI manipulation tool exercising the razor thinnest of happy paths to each of the 6 major routes through the software. And being UI driven, if you've been to some of the previous talks today, you know that UI driven tests are a bad idea. False positives were high, negative positives were, false positives, false negatives were both high. Script rework for those 6 scripts fell onto me. It was taking me 4 hours a day. We had it set up so that the brand new build would load, the old build would unload, the brand new build would load, the program would start, the tests would be run against them, and the results would then be mailed out to me and the developers. And because of all of the false positives, false negatives, didn't take long for all the developers to say, hey, can you take me off of that list, please? So I'm the only one looking at these results, and the only thing I'm doing is correcting the false positives and false negatives that the scripts are finding. The legacy final acceptance testing, or FAT testing philosophy, we test all the test cases that are in a ready or review state. There's 940 of them. We used all hands on deck test execution, 4 devs and 1 tester. The tests that had previously been written, I spent a whole lot of time converting them so anybody who could read could run these things. So we weren't actually testing at that point, we were just executing test steps. Time estimate, 940 test cases, 5 testers, 8 tests a day, 24 business days to complete round 1. The fix cycle after the first round, and then retest the fixed items. Round 2, rinse and repeat. Retest all the test cases in the affected fixed area path, and then continue until all the critical and high bugs are resolved. Medium and low, we'll leave those alone. So, how long does all this take? 6 to 8 weeks. First pass, 3 to 4 weeks. So then my boss comes to me and says, hey, Jerry, can we test any faster? What can we do to reduce the FAT time without impacting quality and without adding any more hardware or personnel resources. Okay. Well, my first thought was, let's go through every single test case and one by one and identify deprecated features and duplicated effort. Quick scan of all 940 test cases for viability. If they don't make sense, they're gone. Duplicates, bye-bye. TCs for low severity bugs, deprecated. TCs for retired features, have fun in retirement. And remember that one bug equals one TC rule? I gave that to heave-ho. Unfortunately, somebody else saw what a stupid idea it was way before me and deprecated most of those, so I didn't get as much net gain out of that as I was hoping for. Result? 2 weeks of hard work, test case examination. Test count went from 940 to 900. 40 test cases, 1 day of FATA. That's not enough. I need to think outside the box. No. Bring the box. I need a new box. And then I remembered Paul Holland. Met him when I was working at Desire to Learn. He came in as a consultant to talk to testers and PMs for a couple of days, and he related to us a story of the 10,000 test cases. He once worked with a company that had a product with 10,000 test cases logged against it, and the management came to him and said, "We need to get these numbers down. What can you do for us?" So we took away their 10,000 test cases, went away for a couple of weeks, came back with 6. Not 6,000. 6. The management team had some serious reservations about going from 10,000 test cases to 6. How is it possible that 6 test cases can do the work of 10,000? He said, "Here, check them out. Here's your 10,000 back. Have a look, do a comparison, let me know what you think." The top management went away, they looked at it, they came back and said, "Yeah, your 6 do more than our 10,000. Thank you." And I wondered, is it possible for me to apply the same radical thinking to my problem and get a similar result? So, I asked myself, since Waterloo Hydrogeologic is a customer-centric company, what does the customer care about? What absolutely has to work? Well, first off, the tutorials. The product comes with a number of tutorial projects, and the tutorials lead the user through exercising every single important feature in the product. If these don't work, we have a problem. Licensing. The customer can't license this product to work on their own system, we have a problem. Customer reported issues. Out of all the hundreds of bugs that I've logged over the past 9 years, many of which are still open, the only bugs that truly matter are the ones that the customer reports, because those are the ones the customers care about. Those have to work. So I took the customer-centric approach. We already had the licensing test cases, so there's no work for me to do there. The tutorial test cases were easy. Step 1, launch the program. Open this tutorial. Run the tutorial. Make sure nothing stupid happens. Repeat 5 more times. The customer reported issues were a little more time intensive. Our work tracking tool has a flag which allows us to identify backlog items that are customer related. We don't have a mechanism to determine which test cases associated with those bugs and backlog items are customer reported. So I had to go through all of the test cases, all of the backlog items and bugs, find the ones that were customer reported, find the ones that had links to test cases, and put a flag in each one of those test cases. Then I created a query for all of these, including the tutorials and the tutorials and licensing, into a test suite. What do we get? Old count 900, new count 136. 84.9% reduction. I'll take it. Now, for the new testing philosophy, we're still creating one test case per important backlog item or bug to record how the tester exercised and improved the backlog item. And only customer reported issues get their test cases into the final acceptance test. What doesn't get a test case? Well, small backlog items like correcting spelling mistakes, moving and changing button names, locations, or something obvious that any other test case would find, like can't open any project. Now at FAT time, when the developers run their test cases, they look for a deviation from expected results. They're not necessarily looking that that result is right or wrong. Any discrepancies are discussed informally with the group via chat, with testers and PM, to determine if it's the test case at fault or if it's a legitimate issue. If it's a legit bug, fail a test case, move on. If it's a big issue that the developer can't dig through, or it's too complicated, mark the test case as designed, assign it to me, I'll deal with it later. And the results? Well, we were budgeted 3 weeks for test fix cycles. First round completion, 4 days. We were able to get 4 rounds of test fix cycles in. Okay. Test execution time reduction, 60%. My PM budgeted 3 weeks for test fix cycles. We were able to complete these so quickly that we had time to run 4 cycles in 3 weeks instead of 2 in 8 weeks. We ran into Parkinson's law on that one, I think. When work expands to fill available time, I think for the next release we could go to a 2-week FAT, but by leaving it at 3 weeks, we were able to not only get through the urgent and high bugs, we were able to get some of the medium ones fixed as well. So now the product works better. And just like Paul Holland's client, my PM had some reservations. Hearing a new concept like this needs a backout strategy, right? Well, if things go horribly wrong, then all the test cases, all the original test cases are still in the test case repository. We can recall the product, roll things back, do a full test the way we did, and never speak of this again. If customers complain a little bit more than usual about the quality of the product, then we can do one of 2 things based on the severity of the issue. We can do patch and release. Currently, if a customer has a problem that stops them from being able to do their work, we guarantee them a patch within 5 business days. Worst that would happen, we take some hit points on company reputation, but we can still roll forward doing this.
That's where the water would have kept coming up this way. Yeah. Then you got over.
None of these increases in speed would make any difference at all if the end product satisfies the customers, right? So, I queried the bug tracking tool 3 months after the release, doing it the new way, 3 months after release, doing it the old way, to find out how many bugs customers reported within 3 months of each release. In the prior release, 9 bugs. This release, 8 bugs. Okay, so we didn't do a horribly terrible wrong thing. Now this is only 2 data points, but it at least shows us we're not going in the wrong direction. Pros and cons. Pros, faster releases. Cheaper releases. Cost us $30,000 for this round instead of $80,000. Same or better quality, and the things that the customers care about work. The cons. If the product is not customer driven, this ain't gonna work. If the customer have other options, like Candy Crush, this ain't gonna work. This is a radical idea. If there's no management buy-in, if my manager had not come to me with this problem, I'd have a hard time selling. And that's what I got. Time for some discussion. I know that what I've laid out here today is a case study for one company. It may or may not work for you, because the products, the teams, the management philosophies are different, but do consider it. Questions, comments? Listen.
Question about context. How often do you use this?
Releases are annual. We're still an agile company, so we're still doing incremental builds, iterations every 2 weeks. But the release to the general public is annual. Yes, sir.
What are you going to do with all the spare time you gained back?
Fix all those other test cases. Yes, sir.
More of a comment. I think we had a similar situation at our company to you, where this giant repo of test cases we were running it. It was taking like 8 testers like 2 weeks to do or something, and then slowly we were like, why don't we just use these ones? And then cut it down, nothing blew up, and also we were able to automate a lot more. But yeah.
Awesome.
Same kind of stuff. So.
Awesome. I'm not the only one. Excellent. Yes.
On a similar vein to that, do you have any tips for identifying your highest priority test cases from, if you have some massive repo of test cases, is there any tips for figuring out which ones are the most important to automate or make sure that we are still covering certain situations?
With automation, the automatic desire is to go for what's easy. But you know, the stuff that's easy, that's the stuff that you're going to run into anyway. As for choosing what's the most valuable, the most useful, follow the money. Use the newspaper headline analogy. If this bug gets into the wild and media writes about it, is this going to look really good for the company or really, really bad? If it's really, really bad, this is a contender. Yes, sir.
Just another comment. I found like if you are automating stuff, really high value test is end-to-end test. It takes like one of the most common paths and kind of scoops out a large portion of functionality. So the user goes through something that they would usually do, and it touches as much part of the software as it can, but at a very high level. So.
Yes, that's exactly what we were doing. End-to-end, open a brand new project, build it up using these components, run the translation, do the run, see the output. But there's so many moving parts and so many dependencies running through it that if any one of those break, the whole thing breaks. That's the problem with UI testing. If there's a way to pry that layer off and get underneath, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Can you share roughly like the size of your geological company and employees?
There's a grand total of about 20 folks. Let's see, there's 4 different products. And we sell worldwide. Three, two, 1. Closed.
All right.
Thank you.
Quick reminder to everybody, scan the QR code, give some feedback for Jerry on, our wonderful presentation this afternoon, and then we have a little bit before the next session will start.